Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still survive and offer grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity. Like living in this fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't need a reason. It's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. Said it got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics. Like condom with some trinkets, just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets a blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat. And maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on some.
We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out. We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out. We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out. We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out.
We didn't vote to be colonized and enslaved. We didn't vote to be tamed. We didn't vote to suppress our rage and be trained. We didn't vote to be driven insane. We didn't vote to be disproportionately jailed. We didn't vote to be nailed to a cross daily and tragically killed. We didn't vote to be the guinea pigs for the birth control pill, or to be given syphilis by the soulless and deny medication while we lie ill. We didn't vote to be the first played, the last paid, and the last saved in the last days. We didn't vote to be stripped of our dignity and become afraid. We didn't vote to end fighting for liberty, for it is still necessary by any means. We didn't vote to temporarily camouflage our poverty in the stupidity of demonic dreams. And we didn't vote on the way reality is perceived, as so many of us seem to be seriously deceived. We only know what we're allowed to see, so sadly anything that's on TV is believed. We didn't vote to give the police the power to unleash a wrath that will slowly devour our people in a bloodbath, surrounding us with the reality of death until there's nothing left. Yeah, you do the math. We didn't vote to be this much miseducated. We didn't vote to be kidnapped, separated and traded, segregated to be integrated. We didn't vote to have our sisters sexually violated. We didn't vote to have our brothers special educationally castrated, to have them both to be later incarcerated, incinerated, left totally devastated, almost dead and forever looked upon by society as the most hated. We didn't vote for the demonic blockade on Cuba. We didn't vote for the forced trumped up charges on Asada. Got these crackers so mad only 90 miles from America, and they still can't fucking touch her. So you tell me who's freer, now that's black power. We didn't vote for the assassination of Malcolm and Chad, the torture of Abisu. We didn't vote for the unlawful incarceration of Mumia. We didn't vote to sign his death warrant, so we can't just vote to stop them either. Wasn't it Malcolm who stated the ballad of the bullet? This last part about the bullet we must have forgot, because if Malcolm was alive, he wouldn't have hesitated this long to pull it. And most of these reactionary side-stepping motherfuckers would have gotten shot. Why? Cause we ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out.
We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out. We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out. We ain't vote to get into this shit, so we won't vote to get out.
What's happening, good people? We are live and direct. This is RSTV. Listen, batten down the hatches. Share this. Get ready. We got some things going on. There's a whole lot of things going on here at Black Power Media. Continue to support blackpowermedia.org. We appreciate folks riding with us. We're going to keep on riding till the wheels fall off. And when the wheels fall off, we'll be flying high. Don't even trip. Anyway, my name is Kalonji Changa, and today I wanted to bring to the platform a brother who is no stranger. Of course, he's been on here plenty of times, and wanted to bring him on to talk about a rather controversial situation right now in regards to some criticisms that he's waged or gave towards three of the independent electoral candidates for president here in these United Snakes. So I want to welcome to the stage. This is in response to a lecture that was given in Los Angeles last week. I want to bring to the stage our good brother, Dhoruba Bin Wahad. What's happening, D? How you doing? You're muted, bro.
I said, I'm fine. How you doing, black man?
Live on arrival. Folks out there, I just realized my mic's not plugged up. Can you all hear me good? Hear me well?
I hear you very well. I don't know
Okay.
if other people do.
Cool in the game. Well, I'll probably end up attaching the mic, but I wanted to know, first and foremost, you were out in Los Angeles last Sunday, and you gave a speech, part of it around what's going on in the history of Israel and Palestine. You went back on that, and then one of the things you brought to the table was this whole united front, which you, myself, and many others have been talking about for decades now. And the challenge you made was to a few other people who've been on this program: Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Jill Stein, and Claudia de la Cruz. And of course, they have different folks who follow each one of them. And folks wanted to know, okay, well, what's the criticisms about? What is he expecting? So on and so forth. So I wanted to bring you on today to respond and kind of give some insight for folks who missed the lecture on what actually took place and what the lecture was about, and how'd you end up in LA?
First of all, Kalonji, peace, man. I appreciate you allowing me to voice what I think is a serious problem at this particular moment. I just want everyone to know, all the listeners to know, people who are tuned in, and people who I'm going to talk about. A united front, an anti-fascist, anti-racist, anti-imperialist, and a working class united front at this particular historical moment can lay the basis for independent black political party, a third alternative to the duopoly of the Democratic and Republican corporate parties in 4 years. Now, it's beyond my comprehension as an activist, and I have an enormous amount of respect for all three of the contestants who are running independent campaigns. I understand their politics. I believe I understand their spirit and their desire to fulfill a role in bringing and uniting progressive people, people of color, working people, anti-fascists, um, into the political arena so that we can make a difference in the electoral system. Having said that, I just want people to know I don't have any dog in this fight. I'm not an advocate of one of the particular campaigns or the other, but I am an advocate for people of African ancestry. I consider myself a Pan-African. I consider myself a revolutionary activist, and so it bewilders me. I'm totally bewildered that these three people, who I have an enormous amount of respect for, cannot comprehend that we are living in a historical moment, and having three individual campaigns for presidency is beyond absurd, especially when each campaign is saying essentially the same thing. It's not like you're picking Cornel over Jill or Jill over Claudia because they have different politics or a different political strategic objective. It's not because of that. These campaigns have to be explained to the people that they claim that they want to mobilize and they want to organize. And the people that claim to do that, that need that clarification, are the people who are struggling on the front lines right now in the streets, on the campuses, against the white supremacist settler state of Zionist state of Israel, the BDS movement, people who are struggling in the streets for homeless folks, people who are struggling in the streets for a decent wage. These people need to know, why do we have three campaigns for the presidency and they're all saying the same? And right now, in this historical moment, we need a national united front. That's a pretty basic question. Now, one might say that that each individual campaign may be reluctant to abdicate or to forego their individual agenda and their individual organizational apparatus in order to build a united front. That as it may be, I'm not calling for people to abandon their campaign if they feel that that's a breaking point. I do know that if I'm going to be frank, and I'm inviting them to come on this station, to come on this show, to come on Black Power Media and answer this in front of the people. And I want the people to come on and speak their mind about whether a united front is what we need now, or do we need three individual presidential campaigns of saying the same thing. So this is why I said I don't have a dog in this fight. My only dog in this fight is the people and the powerless and the disenfranchised. Now, having said that, let's just look at these campaigns. I mean, on the surface, we have the Green Party, which is registered in a number of states. I forgot the exact amount, but they're significantly registered on the electoral ballot in several urban states and several states. But they're completely, almost absolutely unknown to the Black community, to the grassroots working class Black community. Nobody knows about the Green Party in the Black community. And then you have a front runner who's running on the Green Party in the Black community, who's a doctor, who's been in this struggle for a long time. And I have an enormous amount of respect for Comrade Jill Stein. But ain't nobody know her ass in the Black community. And those who do know, many of them have the type of crippled politics that's been crippled by white supremacy and racism to even pause at the fact that it's a white woman on the ticket. I mean, this is serious. Now we have Cornel, who's very eloquent, who's been in this fight since he was a teenager down there, since he was in college. You understand? Who came up indeed under the Black Panther Party's early organizing on the campuses. Cornel is a very articulate Black representative of the issues. Most folks in the Black community, middle class and working class, do know Cornel West, do know of him, do know of his positions and how articulate he has been over the years in championing the struggles of all people, not just Black people, but all people. And then we have Claudia. This comrade sister is a straightforward, revolutionary, progressive sister who heads an organization that has amazing organizational skills and talent and discipline. Now I'm bewildered. I'm taken aback why these three candidates, all whom have a role to play or would play in a united front, given the benefits of their organization, given the backgrounds in their organization. These are the three people that should be combining and calling out for a united front. And if they don't, I'm going to tell it like it is. If they don't, it's not because it's not politically expedient. It's not because it's not what's supposed to be done right now. It's all about ego. That's all it can be in my mind, because they can't explain any other reason for it. They can't. What, they're going to divide the progressive vote? That's what they're going to do. Some people that likes Cornel are going to go for Cornel. The people that's registered with the Green Party, they're going to go for the Green Party. And Claudia de la Cruz and her organization, they're going to fight on by themselves for a socialist agenda and paradigm. Who does that? How could this be allowed? How could this be permitted? And this goes for other organizations too, who might have a lot of beefs about coming into a united front. I don't care whether they're a national organization. I don't care whether they're Black organizations or Muslim organizations. When I spoke in the Muslim mosque, I told the Muslims there in that mosque and told the community, the Muslim community, that we need to put aside any differences that we may have with other people, that we're not endorsing other people's necessarily endorsing their lifestyle, but we as the Ummah, we as Muslims have an obligation to lead the struggle against Taghut, to lead the struggle against oppression and exploitation. In fact, the Muslim is commanded in the Quran. It says, "O ye who believe, who will stand for truth if not but you? Who will stand for those who can't stand for themselves if not for you? You are the best evolved of humankind. You enjoin what's right and you forbid what's wrong." Huh? So why would the Muslims sit on the side while there's a genocide going on in front of our eyes, while there's millions of people being starved to death and murdered in the Sudan? Why would we sit on the side and talk some smack about this is my religion and this is my deen? We need to get in the streets. We need to get out there and organize. We need not to moan or hold on to our particular religious dogmas and verses. We need to organize ordinary people. Homelessness in the U.S. is inexcusable. And we know why. It's because of capitalism and what capitalism does. It values property rights over human rights. And people don't matter. We know that. And so we know that when Claudia and her party are organizing for a more socialist and left understanding of capitalism and organizing ourselves out from under the finger of finance capitalism, that they have a role to play in the united front. Just as Cornel calls for an abandonment of the duopoly system run by the oligarchs. Listen to Cornel speak. If Cornel is not talking about a united front, I don't know what he's talking about. Listen to Jill Stein speak when she speaks about working class people and the need for working class people and unions to be empowered. When she talks about housing, when she talks about education, when she talks about universal health care. Why isn't she part of a united front against fascism and white supremacy? Why? And I'm challenging them. I want them to come on this program, and I want them to come on Black Power Media and tell me why. Tell the people why. Tell the people why we need 3 independent campaigns for presidency. None of them are going to get actually elected, but we can build a basis, a national basis for a third political party if we start now in this historical moment. Don't wait around with rhetoric and talking smack. We could lay out the principles and organization for a united front and invite every progressive organization on our side of the barricades to join, individuals and organizations. We could make a powerful impact on the upcoming election. We could make our voices known and our issues heard. You can't only do that with a national united front. And I'm going to end this rant with a historical fact. In 1969, the Black Panther Party called for an anti-fascist united front. It called for a national coalition, a national anti-fascist front. Over 7,000 activists showed up to join this call, to stand up for this call. And we established NCCF chapters in over 30 cities in the United States. In other words, we established chapters out of this coalition, out of this united front called the National Committees to Combat Fascism. And the job of each committee, they were not restricted by race. They were not restricted, membership was not restricted by race. It was not restricted by class. It was not restricted by gender or none of these things. It had one goal and one goal only: to stop the consolidation of the police state and the militarization of the police state, and put public safety in the hands of the community. So every NCCF took out and started to organize for community control of police and decentralization of police. In New York City, we organized it and got it on the ballot, but it was the police unions that threw out the money, that bought off the bootlickers, and that established the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And if we look at history now, we see every city has a Civilian Complaint Review Board that has absolutely no power. It has absolutely no teeth. If we look at cop cities that are being built around the country, there's only over 51 of them being built around the country, these cop cities. The most salient one that we know about is the one down there where you're at in Atlanta, okay? Who are the ones that called for or allowed for and took the land for a cop city? It was the city council, the Atlanta city council. It was these bootlickers and ass kissers in high places. You know, we got black faces in high places and we have no political power. We have more black faces in high places than we've ever had in our history, and we have no political power. None. None.
So let me ask you this.
So I just want to end. I'm gonna let you go. I just want to end with this: that this is the time to build a united front against those very things that all three of these campaigns are talking about. They're running for, and if they fail to lead. If they fail to lead, if they want to be guilty of terrorism, then let it be. But I assure you that if they do not build this united front, their campaigns are going to flop. Their campaigns are not going to take off in the community. They're not going to take off among youth. They're not going to take off at all. They're just wasting time and money and running into space and running up space on the internet. We need a united front. And there's no reason why these three candidates should not lead that effort.
So I want to start off by, first of all, thank you for laying that out. Secondly, indeed, as you just mentioned, that invitation is extended for any time. I will be reaching out to all three candidates, you know, who, as you stated, are good people, I think, by nature, you know, Cornel West, Claudia, and Jill Stein, all three who we've had on this platform numerous times. So definitely, you know, that invitation, it is extended, and we can do this whenever you all are prepared. I think it's a necessary conversation at the very least, right? I want to ask, because there are some folks, again, and this is why I wanted to have you on, because there's folks who will be listening. You have some folks who are narrow nationalists who are just like, oh man, you know, why are we even talking about electoral politics, so on and so forth, and to what, you know, I know that you're not a proponent of electoral politics, you know, I mean, unless something changed over the past few days, you know what I'm saying? I know that, you know, that's not, unless something happened, I don't know, but I want to ask for, because we're seeking clarity here today, right? So for brothers, sisters, and others who are out here checking this out and are confused, what role? Because you're talking about building a third party. One of the things that you just stated a few minutes ago was neither one of them are going to win. And with that, we know that, just from those candidates being on this platform, folks have gone hard on them like, okay, well, you're not saying this or you're not saying that. So the question is a uh, multi-pronged question. The first thing would be, um, how can electoral politics assist in our liberation during these days, especially in calling for a united front? And secondly, if you and others feel that they don't stand a chance in becoming president, the candidate, then playing crackers advocate, what would be the purpose of even addressing them or putting that pressure on them?
Well, let me answer the first question about electoral politics. Mobilizing and organizing people in the community means that all politics is local. All politics begin on a local level. And whether we vote or not personally, the electoral political system is the means by which people's needs, people's desires can be organized and mobilized and made coherent and put pressure against the duopoly political parties and the corporate parties. We know who runs the electoral system. We know that. We know that the electoral college system is nothing but democratic fascism. It's a unique system. It doesn't exist nowhere else on the planet, only in the US. And it was put in place by the so-called founding fathers who were slave owners. It was put in place by these individuals so that their rights and their property rights could not be threatened by the masses of working people or non-property holders. Okay, that was the purpose of the electoral college system. It wasn't designed for one person, one vote. It wasn't designed for that. This is why you see the orange man won the electoral college vote and lost the popular vote to the Wicked Witch of the West. So we need to understand that electoral politics is not something that our ancestors fought for and died for just so that they could sit next to white folks in the laundromat or in the restaurant, or so that they could cast their vote for a do-nothing Negro to become mayor, or for a district attorney to sanction white supremacist militarized police. No, the electoral system for us at this point, as a marginalized people, as a people with a history of pushbacks against our rights and our humanity, must understand that we should try to organize people where they are at. And we should try to organize them where they at and try to take them to a whole different, a new level of sovereign thinking and sovereign organization. You could bet in 4 years, if we had a national united front that grew, that had different people in this front, that we organized for this, in 4 years, we'll be able to challenge these duopoly parties about the issues of universal health care, about how an organized people. People would say, man, I'm not voting for them. They're not for my kids. They're not for my babies. I'm gonna vote for the red, black, and green party, or whatever we're gonna call it. You see? So electoral politics is a means towards an end, and that end is for people on the local and on the national level to be able to take control over their own destiny. It's designed to build a sense of sovereign thought and sovereign ideology and sovereign thinking. We have to stop electing these bootlickers and ass kissers and people like Adams to political office because there's no other alternative. We have to understand why even radicals during an election year will tell you to hold your nose and vote for Genocide Joe because he's the lesser of two evils. Well, we know that the lesser of two evils is evil. And as for your second question, I believe your second question was about how would we. I believe it was about how would we go about doing this? How would this look How would this look? Well, we have a radical history. We have radical movements. We have liberation movements that have a history, and we need to study these liberation movements that have this history and see that just because we have a united front doesn't mean that it's based solely on on uniformity. We're not talking about uniformity here. We're talking about unity. We're talking about having a common enemy at a particular moment in time. Okay, if we look at the united front that Mao Zedong formed when the Japanese invaded Asia, we'll see invaded China. You'll see that Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communist Party were fighting the Kuomintang. They were at war with the Kuomintang, and they buried the differences and they formed a united front against the imperialists, against the Japanese invaders. And when that front succeeded in halting the Japanese invasion and kicking them out of China, Mao Zedong and them went back to their agenda, which was the total liberation of the Chinese people. And they went back to fighting the Kuomintang. And eventually the Kuomintang fled to Formosa, which is now Taiwan, which is now what you see the United States aligning themselves with against China. And talking about that Taiwan is independent, et cetera, et cetera. My point is that we have a common enemy, all of us. Jill Stein and the Green Party, Cornel West, Sister Claudia, we all have a common enemy. And it's this historical moment. This is a special moment, especially given the severe repression that a whole generation of students have went through. You know, I was present when the anti-war movement erupted on the college campuses. We have to ask ourselves, what happened after that? What happened after that is that anti-war movement morphed into a mass movement against the war in Vietnam, and the U.S. had to withdraw. But what we need to understand too is if we look at that history, where was the HBCUs? Where was the historically black colleges? Where were they? In the 60s, they were on the front line. They were demanding black studies. In fact, Jackson State, I believe, had an armed insurrection on the campus. The brothers took over the building with guns. Same thing on San Francisco State campus. Black people made a statement because they felt that we needed to have an education that addressed our needs as a domestically colonized people. And without that education, college was superfluous. But now we have a movement against genocide that's being committed in front of our very eyes. And where are the HBCUs? Where are the black students? I haven't seen a black campus yet that was occupied on behalf of the Palestinian people. So we need to understand that the politics of the black community has been so reactionary, has been made so reactionary that we don't even understand our relationship as a domestic colony to the ruling classes' relationships in Africa and in Europe and in the Middle East. The Black Panther Party had an alliance with the PFLP, with the Palestinian people. Malcolm X talked about the Palestinian people. And we need to ask ourselves, why is Palestine so important to the United States that it's willing to let the tail wag the dog and go all in on Netanyahu and the European settler state? It's because Israel was established as a Western and European settler state in order to exercise geopolitical control over a very important region in West Asia. Israel is like a US aircraft carrier on steroids. See? So this is why. It's imperialism. And do we think as black people that imperialism doesn't affect us when all of the jobs, most of the jobs that makes bombs and work for and the military industrial complex, they're not in the hood. They're mostly in the former Confederate states. The people that are making bombs that work for Raytheon, all of these people are the same people, are the same states that oppress us and deny us work and deny us health care and deny us all of the things that we should have as human beings. So there's a connection between US foreign policy and US domestic policy. You had one senator say just the other day, when Netanyahu was up for nomination as a criminal by the ICC, the International Criminal Court, he said that the ICC was for black folks, it was for Africans, it wasn't for them. You're supposed to trot out black people in front of these courts and charge them with genocide and murder. It's not meant for white folks. We have to understand that white skin privilege and the neurological defect of white supremacy, the abnormal aberration of white supremacy goes deep and is part of U.S. domestic and foreign policy. And if we want to get rid of these do-nothing Negroes in places that reinforce our own subjugation, we need to have our own political party. We need to have our own working class party. And these three candidates, having the track record that they have, having the type of wherewithal that they have in terms of organization, in terms of organizational formats, in terms of their character and their legitimacy, they're in the headlights. They're the deers in the headlight. They're the deers in the headlight of black unity, of working class unity, and of a united front. This is why we should call on them to lead this charge, to talk about this, and to put their energy behind a national anti-fascist, anti-imperialist, and anti-white supremacist united front.
Okay, so you mentioned, and I appreciate that. One of the things you mentioned was the HBCUs and their role in the '60s, and I want to point out to folks that in 1969, renowned actor who wasn't an actor at the time, Samuel Jackson, was actually expelled from Morehouse because him and his comrades locked the board members in the building for 2 days in a protest of the school's curriculum and their whole governance. And one of the people that was held hostage was actually Martin Luther King Sr. It was Martin Luther King's father was one of the people that Samuel Jackson and his crew held hostage in protest. And basically he was expelled, ended up in LA, back in LA, and that's how his whole acting career began. So I wanted to point that out for folks who are unfamiliar with the roles that we should have. You mentioned, you know, there's folks that are like, okay, boom, you're talking about these three candidates, organizers, so on and so forth. The criticism, which we're hearing since you delivered that message, has been, well, what about the quote unquote nationalist organizations? What about the Pan-Africanist organizations? What about the socialist and the communist organizations? They can't get it together. Shit, we got cats, we can't even get a YouTube channel together. What do we expect? What role in comparison does what are we expecting for these folks to do? Like you said, I understand that the direction you're going in with it, but how do we bring some of these other movements into the fold as well? We don't want, and I don't think that this is what you're doing. In fact, I know it's not what you're doing. We don't want folks to be confused into thinking that, when all fails, blame the rapper. When all fails, blame the actor. What role does the rest of society play, not only in building this united front, but also applying pressure? Because I think that we all can use a little bit of pressure as far as to do what it is that should be done. What's your thoughts on that? Because again, some folks are looking at it like, oh man, this ain't the '60s and y'all just hating and so on and so forth. What do you say to that?
Well, what I would say to that, repression breeds unity, repression breeds resistance. Any organization that doesn't, that whether it's nationalist, Pan-African, or whatever, that doesn't understand what a united front is, then they need to study. A united front doesn't tell you that you're supposed to give up your organizational integrity or your organizational principles. A united front tells you that at this historical moment, you're more effective in a collective than you are alone. That we could organize a united front that has different aspects and different principles to it than any organization, whether it's a black nationalist or whether it's a reformist, progressive working class union, we could put principles in place that allows everybody to participate in the United Front. Okay, and people that refuse to participate in the United Front are usually reactionary organizations, are usually organizations that the enemy would rely on in order to break up the unity of working class people. We know who they are. We know the type of organizations they are. We have a history on this, whether they were religious organizations or whether they were messianic organizations. We know of organizations that sat out the whole 60s, sat it out, didn't do nothing but talk shit, and survived because they were never targeted to begin with as being serious in terms of transforming American society. Everybody knew that they were a cult, that they were a narrow nationalist organization, and that all they were going to do was come up with cultural holidays and bake pies. We know this, and we know who they are. This ain't no history. This ain't no mystery. So those who don't join the United Front obviously feel threatened by unity, not empowered by unity. They must feel threatened by. How are they threatened by unity? How could unity of working class people, of Black people, around a common goal of self-determination, around a common goal of universal health care, around common goals of their humanity, how could an organization say, well, I'm not a part of that? What are you a part of? So I don't think that the call out of these three campaigns should be as a sign that everybody else is unimportant. We have to hold each other to account. We're not talking about unity here. Again, we're not talking about uniformity. We're talking about unity. Everybody don't have to think the same or have the same agenda, but we do have common principles and we do have a common enemy at this point, at this time. If we allow genocide to go on in front of our eyes and the U.S. to threaten the ICC, International Criminal Court, what do you think would happen when these crackers turn these guns on us? And don't think that ain't happening. Don't think the militarized police that's being trained by these Israelis are just being trained by them just to stop protests and demonstrations. Huh? We've been there and did that. So who do we think is going to defend us? The newly elected Black mayor of Chocolate City? Who's going to defend the Black community? You had a Black president. You know, you had Obama. He did absolutely nothing for Black folks. He maintained the empire and kept it moving. So why do we think that if we don't organize ourselves collectively, if we don't put aside petty differences and organize into a united front and begin to train our people and organize our people on every level possible, that's not in the benefit of our individual organizations? I can't understand how anybody could have a problem with that.
Right. And I'm glad that you're pointing it out, because I think that the issue here is you have folks who are just looking at the personalities, and it's just like, okay, well, you know, I like so and so, you know, so that ain't cool, or I like this particular party because they have so many states where they are registered, or where they're, you know, where they're on the ballots. But at the end of the day, the ultimate question is, what is the end goal? And that's what, as organizers, we always want to know. When I had Cornel on, that's the question I had for him. Okay, after this election, after this campaign, and let's say you don't become president, because I'm not going to ever say what a man or woman can or can't do. You know what I'm saying? You know, whatever I feel, that's personal, whatever. But at the end of the day, the thing is, what are we doing after this? What's the aftermath? We talk about revolution. How do we build after revolution? Is it just carnage and everything cool? Or do we have farmers ready to grow? Do we have builders ready to build? How do we work this thing? So I think that if we look at it from that particular angle, you know, the building of a legitimate third party is what it sounds like you're saying. Okay. And it sort of reminds me of Harriet Tubman, and not comparing her or reducing her to electoral politics, but laying the foundation and laying the path, the Nat Turners, so on and so forth, the Denmark Vesey's before, generations down the line, not just looking at the now. So what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, that these three candidates potentially have the opportunity to come together and build a situation where this two-party system can be crushed. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think each one of these candidates, just like you pointed out, there's people that love and hate them. There's people that respect them. I know I have an enormous amount of respect for all three of them, and they've always been consistent in terms of the struggle. But this is the time when we need to come forth and change or transform that consistency into concrete action, into a concrete power base. So, given the fact that they each have have um, have have organizations and benefits and that are beneficial to building a united front, they should lead it. I'm not saying that they should lead it by themselves. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a united front coordinating or steering committee in which every organization is represented, and the same thing with the propaganda. I mean, look at the enormous amount of of, of benefit a united front would bring. Organizations that's organizing on the streets would have the benefit of having a national platform. We'll be able to plug in to mobilizing people. Getting them to the polls is just an organizational tool, a mechanism. Because you have to organize buses, you have to get people out the house, you have to go door to door and get people to go down there and pull the lever over here that says independent Black political party, independent working class party. Huh? That means you have to have a face-to-face relationship with people. Whether you want, and everybody that you get to come to the polls, you might not like them personally. You might have a beef with your neighbor personally, but this isn't personal. This is something that's bigger, that transcends this. This is about our future. This is about our children. This is about building a better world and a better place where these corporate vipers and pirates do not control and run our lives. So every organization that's out there that's sincere, that's on the streets working, they can benefit from having a united front, being a member of a united front. Instead of getting 50 people to their rally, they might be able to get 500 because they have allies in the united front who's going to turn out for their rallies because it's a matter of principle that we support each other. So there's nobody that's going to have a problem with this unless it's about ego, unless it's about sectarian, a narrow nationalism. They don't even that's going to have a problem with this.
So let me ask you, because in 1972, as you know, they had the National Black Political Convention in Gary, Indiana, and they had everyone from Coretta Scott King to Amiri Baraka, Dick Gregory, Muhammad Ali, Louis Farrakhan, Harry Belafonte, Bobby Seale, Shirley Chisholm. It was a who's who, Betty Shabazz, etc. Who's who of Black folks at this particular convention. Do you see this particular National United Front that you're calling for being a more aggressive, active, organized type of version of this National Black Political Convention, or is it just something that is totally, not in the same arena? What do you, how do you answer that? How do you respond?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that history doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Yes, there's similarities, but this is a different time, this is a different era, and we have a whole entire generation. And most of all, we have that experience in our radical history. All we got to do is study it. And when we study it, we see how that convention was sabotaged. It was sabotaged by Black enemies of Black people, class enemies of Black working people. It was Jesse Jackson with a chain around his neck and an afro that said it wasn't time for a Black political party yet. It wasn't time, that we still had to exhaust our role in the Democratic Party, and he bounced. He's the same one that hijacked the Black Panther Party's concept of a rainbow coalition and used it to put black faces in corporate places and considered that advancement. Okay, look at each one of these individuals and what they've contributed since then and the role that they played in Gary, Indiana. And we'll have a clear picture of the class enemies that's going to come forth now and that's going to try to undermine this, and how the enemy is going to try to use this against divide us by using intersectional beef, individual oppression, whether it's under patriarchy or feminism or whatever, and try to sabotage this because they know that, to coin an old a cliche when we go out, people say it but they don't believe it. A people united could never be defeated. A people united could never be defeated. We chant that all the time, but we don't live that.
It's like Black Power. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, you black and hardly that, but damn sure ain't no power. You know what I mean? So
no power because we succumbed to narrow nationalism of the 60s, and the narrow nationalists won the day because the government wasn't interested in repressing them because it knew that they had no value strategically. So they were the ones that organized black faces in high places, and it wasn't until they were on their deathbed or approaching death that they came out and said that they were wrong. Amiri Baraka said to my face before when I roasted him at his birthday celebration, he came out and said that what he did with Gibson and all of them was a mistake. Black faces in high places didn't equal power. But the narrow nationalists, when we call for a united front against fascism, they hardly showed up. They hardly showed up. It was
why do you think that was?
Because they were narrow. That's because they didn't understand the value of white faces in high. They didn't understand the value of having white allies that could go to the gun store and buy automatic weapons for your ass because they was white. They didn't understand that part. You see, that they wouldn't have sold shit to me or you. You know. But let Muffy walk up in there and tell her how she's scared of some black rapists, and see they'll give her a free pistol.
She'll come out with a tank.
Yeah, we need to understand that white supremacy is the founding ideology of the United Settler State, and it's a delusion. White supremacy is delusional. But it's a delusion that's backed by power and money and finance and a history of genocide. But it's delusional. We should not engage in the delusions of our enemy as our strategic analysis. We have our own analysis. We have our own history, our own radical tradition. And we have to understand, if we say that all politics is local, how is it that we elect local representatives that don't represent us, but represent the police union? They represent the landlord. It's because he's a class enemy of poor people. Black capitalists are class enemies of black people. I'm quite sure Claudia would agree with me on that one. And even Cornel. We've been bought and sold and used because we put our personal and sectarian interests above the interests of our people. And you're rewarded for that. Remember when Bill Clinton stood up at that bald-headed Negro's funeral? What's his name? I keep forgetting this dude's name.
John Lewis.
Yeah,
John Lewis.
Why I can't remember. And he said that Lewis had played a historical role in the civil rights movement because the civil rights movement, when it shouted Black Power, you know, it was going too far.
It's going towards Stokely, he said.
Yeah, it was moving towards Stokely, Kwame Ture. It was going too far, you know. And old John brought him back.
He actually said that. Ain't that something? Ain't it something that Bill?
And that
Bill
was
so,
and that was But that was a compliment at his funeral.
Right.
Man, we need some more Negroes like John. Man, live like John. You see,
Right.
don't let these
Right.
Negroes go too far thinking for
Good
themselves.
trouble.
Don't,
Yeah, they call it good trouble.
yeah. Ain't no, that's an oxymoron. There ain't no such thing as good trouble. Trouble is trouble. Ain't nothing good about trouble.
Exactly.
If there's something good about trouble, it wouldn't be trouble. He's
Wouldn't
trying
be
to make
trouble
like
at
he's
all.
trying to, yeah, he's trying to make like, yeah, the people didn't like me, but now they love me. Huh?
Right.
I don't want to be
Right.
loved by no capitalists when I get put away. I don't want to have a eulogy where they said, well, we was about to get militant and this Negro took that away. Huh? When Martin Luther King died, when Martin Luther King was murdered, he was murdered supporting garbage men, sanitation workers. He was assassinated with a campaign that had as a symbol a mule train. Working class, grassroots, right? He got murdered, and Jesse took his bloody T-shirt, and everybody, all of them Negroes, jumped off the campaign, jumped off the mule-drawn wagon, and went their separate ways, and became poverty pimps, became black spokesmen for black people. And you have people that hailed him to this day. Look at your homeboy Bobblehead Al. He's got a TV. He's on MSNBC.
Right.
You see. So we need to understand our own history. How was that sabotaged? And what was the issues that sabotaged that black convention in Gary, Indiana? It was the right time for it, but the Negroes in it, the sectarian Negroes, the ones that thought that their particular party and their particular organization had the absolute truth on everything, and those who understood that, man, if you have a black political party, man, I ain't gonna be able to make no money. I'm not gonna be important no more. So it's not time for that, brothers and sisters. It's time for us to get behind the Democratic Party. Well, this is a different historical moment. You have a genocide that's being committed right before our very eyes on people of color. If we understand that these same Zionists who put money, the AIPAC, that put money behind these candidates, behind the Meeks and the Jeffries, huh? Look at these Negroes that stand up and talk about protecting Israel. What is in it for them? Huh? Then you look at their campaign donations and you see that the Zionists gave them money to say that. I believe, well, what's his name? Jeffries was jogging in Tel Aviv on October 7th when Hamas launched the attack, and they had to spirit him away into a 5-star hotel so he could be safe. I wish the Hamas would have caught his monkey ass. But anyway, no, I'm digressing, man. I'm digressing seriously.
Stop talking about Dr. Jeffrey's nephew, man. Anyway.
Man, don't stop me on that. Why you do that? You see how you are. That's like this. Let me push this button. So
I'm a journalist.
Well, you ain't supposed to be a button pusher, man.
My job.
That's what they're doing. Yeah, that's what they did on Larry King and stuff, man.
Oh man.
Anyway,
Oh, man.
so they push your button, man. And anyway, so I'm saying that every organization that's out there struggling on the front lines, trying to make a difference in the community, if they had a larger constituency, if they had more support, if they had more coordination with bigger organizations, we could transform how our communities look at their political position and what positions we need to take. This is not to say that we're all going to agree and we're all not going to struggle over issues and the personalities want to get involved. They will. These things happen. But we have our own radical history to go back and check and see how that happened and what we could do and what we could try to do in order to avoid that. But that doesn't mean because we're going to have these internecine fights and struggles and differences that we shouldn't attempt to build a bigger movement. We're going to say, oh, well, I ain't going to build no big movement because everybody else is full of it. And I'm the only one that's right.
Right.
You see? So I'm saying that a united front benefits everyone. And it benefits especially those organizations and those groups who have been fighting the good fight basically alone, without funding, without any type of alliances and support, but have still have made a difference and still trying to make a difference. We got a whole plethora of organizations like that. And I don't think any one of them couldn't contribute to a united front, couldn't fight in a united front and maintain their own organizational integrity. A united front does not mean you give up your organizational integrity. It doesn't mean that. It means that you have a shared enemy at a particular point in time, and there's unity, there's strength in our unity and our contributions at this particular point in time. We may come out 3 years from now, some of our organizations that initially joined the front might quit and feel that the front didn't do, but that's cool. You see, that's cool. But I assure you that if they do join and when they do quit 3 years from now, we be closer to an independent Black political party, working class party, a party of young people than we've ever been before.
So let me ask you.
I don't think this is going to repeat Gary, Indiana.
How do you think this thing's going to play out? I know that you said one of the things you stated earlier in the broadcast, you said that the only way, or you felt the only way that these folks wouldn't come together for United Front would be ego. How realistic and how confident are you that one, two, or all of these candidates will come forth and join this united front? I know that 9 years ago, you, former U.S. Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney, and myself formed the National Coalition to Combat Police Terrorism with the same type of synergy, thoughts, and ideas. In comparison, how confident are you that these folks will, in your eyes, do the right thing? To quote your homeboy Spike.
You put me on the spot there. I'm not at all confident that these 3 campaigns will come forward and do the right thing. That's not because I don't believe that I believe that they can. I just believe that they won't, for a variety of reasons. I'm quite sure if they did come on the program with me, they'll give me all of these reasons why they couldn't do this and why they couldn't do that and why they were going to go their separate ways. I would like that to happen. I don't even think they're going to answer me, really. They might send their vice president or somebody or tell me they're too busy, right now to deal with. But that's cool, I'm not making this call because I have an immense amount of faith in their ability to answer. I'm making this call because it's the right thing to do at this particular moment as a revolutionary. I don't want to be remembered as someone in this time, in this place, while a genocide was going on and the militarized police were building their power and democratic fascism was about to take control, authoritarian control over the whole country, that I was quiet, that I didn't say anything, that I didn't call for a broader understanding and unity between activists and progressive people. I want my grandchildren to say that when they look at this video, well, that's my grandpa. At least he stood up when nobody else would. That's like asking me about, when I went underground and we formed the Black Liberation Army. Did I think that the majority of Black people were going to take up arms against the U.S. government and follow our example? No. But I knew one thing. at that historical moment that I wasn't going to get mad, we were going to get even. There comes a time when talking ain't enough. When you're dealing with an enemy that is murdering you and killing you and abusing you and taking you for granted, there's a time that he only understands one thing. He only understands your humanity when you make him feel exactly what you feel. When you lose your loved one, when you lose your child, when you lose your mother, when you watch your grandmother shot down and beaten in broad daylight. No, you ain't gonna get away with that with me around. You see? And so therefore I understand how the Qassam Brigade and how and Hamas feel when they see their mamas and their babies murdered and brutalized and slaughtered. I understand why they fight. I understand that. And so, no, I didn't. I don't feel that that the call that I'm putting out would be answered in a positive way. I feel that the people might come forward and maybe, give lip service to some of this, but do nothing further. I definitely don't expect them to understand that each one of their campaigns has a unique value to organizing a united front, to organizing the resources of progressive people, voters and everything. Each one of them appeals to a different constituency and class in our community, and that's valuable. But I don't think they understand that. I don't think that they recognize their value. I don't think that they are willing to sacrifice for what I'm talking about. Now I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll stand to be corrected. I love to be corrected. And this is one of those times, Kalanji, that I want to be wrong. You see? But I'm doing this not because I have a dog in the fight, not because I favor one campaign over the other, or I like Cornel more than I like Jill, or I feel more favoritism towards Claudia because she's a socialist and a revolutionary. Nah, I ain't got no dog in this fight. All I know is that this is a historical moment, and I ain't got much left. I ain't got much time left on this planet, so it's not time for me. It's not in me to go out without saying what I think is true and calling our people to unify and calling progressive people to stand up against this enemy of the sun, against these pirates and brigands and thieves. And I could end by saying, if you look for me in the whirlwind, I'll be gone.
No doubt, no doubt. We appreciate you coming on, and we got a lot more work to do. So your ass ain't going nowhere no time soon. Let's we'll try to take the easy way out now. But we definitely appreciate you coming on and laying that out, because I think that uh, the last part in particular, it smashes. The Quran, it says truth smashes the brains out of falsehood. Right. So it smashes the brains out of the whole thought or the idea that, okay, uh, his brother just hating on the candidates, or he, this ain't the '60s and all this other shit. That is an easy way out. We choose the narratives and the low hanging fruit because they're easier to reach. You understand? But this call, it is a legitimate call. Why is it a legitimate call? Because of the fact that, just like you and I, although we're not running for office, when we put ourselves before the people, criticism comes with it. People are going to critique. That's what comes with it. Like Imam Jamil says, this is what comes with war. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna have faith and confidence that these folks will answer the call. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge our chat. I'm going to challenge our audience, to all the viewers that are watching now. If you are on Twitter, I want you to tweet these candidates, and you can at me, Kalanji Changa, and say, look, there's an invitation for you to come on this show. Brother Elder Dhoruba Bin Wahad wants to invite you on to a national united front. So let's see, to the folks in the that the viewers, check it out. that's the role that you could play, because we all have a role in this. There's no neutrals in war. A lot of times folks think they can sit on the sideline or you could just watch YouTube and it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
No. Tweet these folks, let them know that there's an invitation to come on Black Power Media, come on with me and Dhoruba to discuss these criticisms. And you can send them the link to this, whatever. I'm going to be getting at them as well, indeed. But beat me to it. Like they say, don't meet me there, beat me there. You know what I mean? So make sure you tweet Jill Stein, tweet Cornel West and Claudia de la Cruz, and let us know that you send them the message. And that
Mm-hmm.
the invitation is here. Then that way, no one can say they didn't get the message, because it's easy. And I'm not thinking that they would say that, because they all have responded to me rather swiftly in the past. So I'm not thinking that. But at the same time, I want to make sure that the emails don't get lost, that the phone calls don't get missed. You know what I'm saying? That, this is a legitimate call for a national or international united front. So D, man, we appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll have you on next week. We might have to have you on every Friday and whatnot, because it seems like this is a good sermon time. You know what I'm saying? So, we should look into that. I think I like Fridays with Dhoruba. I don't know what y'all think. In the chat, let us know. Anyway, you're checking out Black Power Media, and this has been Dhoruba Bin Wahad. I'm Kalonji Changa. Make sure that you subscribe. The ticker's at the bottom. Subscribe. YouTube.com at Black Power Media Reloaded. YouTube.com/at Black Power Media Reloaded. Join our email list, and you'll get an email, we promise, every week. You'll get some type of notification saying what's going on, probably every Friday. So make sure you join our email at blackpowermedia.org, blackpowermedia.org. And for folks who are really gangster and want to support our Patreon, please do. We accept that. You know what I'm saying? We're doing this community work. It is the 20-year anniversary of FTP. I gotta announce that, because folks are saying that I haven't been pushing that enough. This year, hopefully we'll have you out there, D. The 20-year anniversary of the FTP movement, FTP 20 Hip Hop Martial Arts and Activism Conference, taking place during Black August 16th, 17th, and 18th, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So make sure you check it out. D, I'll be rapping to you in a few. Be safe, and we're gonna look for you in the whirlwind, like you said.
All right, peace, brother. And
Peace.
by the grace of Allah, people right-minded will respond, and let's get this party started, man.
Oh yeah, we here now. You know what I'm saying? We're absolutely here. I'll catch you in a few minutes. Be safe.
All right, peace out.
Peace. You're checking out Black Power Media. This is RSTV. I want to invite you all as well. We have a new merch alert. I want to say this while we're on here. We have some brand new merchandise on the platform. Make sure you check it out. Go to blackpowermedia.org. We have some cool works on here. New t-shirts, new hoodies, new mugs, the whole nine. Stand with Haiti, Palestine, free political prisoners, so on and so forth. Make sure you support what it is we're doing. That's at blackpowermedia.org. Anyway, we're out of here. It's Friday, and we will see you soon. Y'all be safe out there this whole weekend. Peace, power.
Ancestor, ancestor, take my hand, ancestor, lead me on, ancestor, let me stand, ancestor, I get tired, ancestor, I get weak, my nose I get warm, ancestor, through the storm, ancestor, through the night, ancestor, lead me on, ancestor, through the light, ancestor, take my hand, ancestors, and lead me on. In my way grows drip, and
ancestors.